Hello everyone, by popular demand, today I'm going to show you how to properly winterize your boat. The example we're using today is a 4 Winds 200 Horizon with inboard outboard, 350 Chevy engine with OMC Cobra outdrive. So go ahead and get your engines up to operating temperature and we'll get started. So I'm trying to think of the newer boat owner here. First step is you're going to want to change your engine oil, and in order to do that you're going to need a pump. On boats you're going to notice your dipstick has a threaded line here, and what that's for is pumping your oil out. So I'm going to show you that first. So the main thing to worry about here is that you have both your hose connections tight. Have good washers in there, because all of this depends on good suction. So you're going to want to make sure you get that tight. And once you got everything hooked up, it's just a matter of plugging the pump in. Again, you can get these pumps at your local marina.
Flows in the right direction. I'm not going to sit here and have you guys watch me drain my entire oil. Once you get your oil drained, come on back to the video.
Okay, now that you've got your oil drained, this is a good way to store your oil pump, is to put both ends of the hose on itself, so that way any residual oil, which is going to stay in there. I don't use this pump for anything other than changing my boat oil, so other than when I change the oil, it's just sitting around. So what I'll do is just put the hoses together and put it in a plastic bag. Once you've changed your oil, the rest of it is more or less like any other car engine. Your oil filter is going to be down in there. You can see mine, and it's hard to get at. So go ahead and put your new filter on and fill the oil back up. And one other thing you're going to want to do here is change the fuel filter on these boats. And if you look down here, this is not an oil filter. This is a marine fuel filter. It's also doubles as a water separator. So anytime there's water in your fuel, it'll separate that out. So this is another item that's real important to change, especially if your boat's going to be stored in very cold climates, such as here in Michigan. Because if that water filter does have any, if that fuel filter does have any water in it, it will freeze and split. And you probably will not notice it until your boat is full of fumes and ionized fuel. And so not a good idea. Okay, it's about an hour and a half later. I had a little dilemma. I thought I had the wrong oil filter. That oil filter down there is quite a bit shorter than my filter. And I thought the girl at the marina gave me the wrong filter. So I ended up driving over there, and she assured me that this is actually the correct filter. They started to make them a little bit shorter as a means of probably saving money. They say it's to help us to be able to get at them easier, but I'm sure it has to do with money, and I don't like it. But nonetheless, I'll try it. I'll give it a try, and in the spring when I change my oil, I will get one of my Johnson oil filters from the other marina. If you guys are from the Detroit area, there's a good marina here in Westland, Michigan. It's called Bernie's Marine. Those people will never steer you wrong on stuff. The girl that works there, she's been doing it a long time, and she knows her shit. She's about my age, and she's been in this shit as long as I have, all of our lives, you know. So one thing I wanted to mention, when you change your oil, it is important to note that on marine engines, generally you put in SAE 30. No 5W30, no 10W30, 10W40, none of that shit. It's generally SAE 30 weight motor oil when you change your oil. So that's important to note. As always, you're going to want to refer to your owner's manual on all of this stuff. This boat here is almost 30 years old, so I do not know if technology has changed. As far as oil, I know a lot of people are using synthetic oils. I don't use synthetic only because this boat's never had synthetic in it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my oil filled up, and then we'll move on to the next part of this video. Okay, the next step in the process is going to be to drain your outdrive oil. And I'm not draining my outdrive oil. This is going to be one of those do as I say, not as I do. The reason I'm not draining my outdrive oil, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but I replaced my outdrive oil this spring, and I only put about 10 hours on this boat this year. I just didn't put the hours on it, and as you guys know, outdrive oil is expensive. This particular outdrive takes about a gallon, and that's about 80 bucks. So I am going to show you where to locate the screws. Down here at the bottom, you're going to have a screw here, and you're going to have a screw on the OMCs is up top, and I'm sure that the Mercury's is similar. So you're going to want to take this screw loose and then get your oil pan up underneath here and take this out and let it drain out till it's completely empty. If you are going to do what I'm doing, you definitely, if you're not going to change your oil because you have low hours, you do want to check your oil, and what you're checking for is water. If there's any water, or if that oil looks milky or in any way contaminated, you need to drain it and change it. Like I said, I'm going to check mine. If it's milky at all or it has any water comes out, then I'm going to have to drain it. I have no choice. But that's just worth mentioning to you. So, in the next step in the process, you're going to need a decent set of 3/8 or 1/4 inch sockets, a set of channel locks, pliers, a small screwdriver, which you're not going to be using to unscrew anything, but I'll show you what I'm using that for. The method that I'm going to show you guys on how to, oh, I'm sorry, you know what else you're going to need? You are going to need a can of storage fogging oil and antifreeze. You can use RV and marine antifreeze. That is what you're supposed to use. You can also use regular antifreeze, which is what I'm using. Now, the only reason I'm using regular antifreeze and not marine RV antifreeze is because this is just the way we've always done it. I'm guessing that marine RV antifreeze would probably be a little bit easier on your engine. I'm guessing it's probably a little less corrosive. So you can use what you want. I'm going to go with full strength antifreeze. And the method I'm going to show you guys is the traditional method of winterizing. When you go to the marina, what they do is they hook your boat up to a set of bunny ears just like that, and they pump antifreeze instead of water from your hose. They pump antifreeze, and they turn the motor on, and then what you would do is just wait until you start seeing nothing but antifreeze coming out, and that's how they winterize. The method I'm going to show you guys is the traditional method, where you actually go up and drain your engine block and all of that. So what we're going to want to do now is go ahead and start her up and run it up to operating temperature once again. Okay, while you're waiting for your engine to come up to operating temperature, you can go ahead and loosen take the nut off of your flame arrestor and air cleaner. Mine's a 9/16. Go ahead and get it loose, and we will get it loose so that we are ready to fog the engine down. Alright, now that our engine is back up to operating temperature, what we're going to do is fog this engine down. And this is how you do that. The owner's or service manual specifies that you can leave the engine at idle. I like to bring it up a little bit, maybe to somewhere around 500 RPMs. I know my tach says 1000, but my tach is off by as much as 200 RPMs. So I'm going to go by sound here. And right about there is good for me. So the way you fog an engine down, you get your can of fogging oil,
buy a decent fogging oil. And you're just going to start hosing this carburetor down. You're going to hear the engine start to bog. Alright, go ahead and hose the carburetor down. I'm going to have to bring my RPMs down a little bit. That is it. Once the engine stalls out, your engine is now fogged down for the season. And what that does is it coats all the cylinders and coats all the internal parts so that you don't have any rust happening while it's in storage. So that is it. So what you can do now is clean up some of that excess fogging oil, and you are not going to start the engine again until you are ready to fire it up next season. What I like to do now is take a little time to let the engine cool, because the water that we're going to be draining from the block is really hot right now. So we'll let that cool down a little bit. So this is, like I said, it's a good time to clean up that excess fogging oil, turn off your water, pull your bunny ears off, and get ready for the next step. Another important thing to note as far as engine fogging goes is that some guys like to, in addition to doing what we just did, some guys like to take each spark plug out and shoot some fogging oil into each cylinder, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, I may do that myself. Is it necessary? It really depends on the person. Because I've been winterizing this boat. Well, when my dad was alive, we'd do it together, and we never did shoot any fogging oil into the cylinders. We just simply fogged it this way. So it's really, it's up to you. There's a lot of things that I do with this boat that are probably in excess and don't necessarily need to be done, but as you know, if you own a boat, we all love our boats, and we try to keep them up the best we can, and we try to protect them the best we can. Okay, so while you are waiting for your engine to cool down, you can go ahead and loosen all of your hose clamps going to the manifold up here. There's going to be, and including this one, which goes from the water pump to the manifold, you're going to want to loosen both ends on that. The other ones, you can just loosen the tops here. That's all you need to do. As well as, if you go down by your heat exchangers and manifolds, you're going to see this guy here. You can go ahead and loosen these clamps. There's one on each side. And then we will move on to the next step. Okay, now that you have all your hose clamps loosened, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and locate your engine block drain plug. As you can see, mine's right here. They're typically brass, and they're typically located way underneath the engine by the oil pan. So I'm going to come out a little bit and show you. There's my heat exchanger and my engine, and the location of the engine block drain plug is down there. If you have a V6 or an 8-cylinder engine, there will be one on each side. Go ahead and take those both right out. So by now you guys can see that your engine is draining. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these caps back here, and you're probably going to see this something similar. Now, if you have trouble removing these caps, they can be a little tough to remove. What you can do is go ahead and I'm going to set this camera down. I'm sorry for the crappy camera work. It is what it is. What you can do is get yourself a set of channel locks, and what you can do is grab onto these guys with a set of channel locks and just give them a little turn, a little twist, and that will loosen them up. Generally, they just, these heat exchangers are cast iron, so of course they're going to you know, corrode, and they'll get stuck on there. So that's a little trick that I learned over the years. At this point, you know, it's a lot of times you look down in that cap, you're going to see a little bit of debris, you know, engine debris. And earlier I had mentioned making sure you have a small, very small screwdriver. What I like to do is once this is done draining, you can take your little screwdriver and just stick it up in those drains and make sure they're clear of any debris, and make sure everything's drained out. So now you're just waiting for the water to drain. Okay, we've got the engine block draining. You can go ahead and pull the hose off of your manifold down to your water pump. And I'm trying to do this one-handed, and it is not easy, but I will do my best what I do for you guys. Alright, time to set the camera down. Maybe you guys can still see this. It's important to get these, this hose in particular, off, because it's full of water going directly to your water pump. And you probably can't see that, but you can hear it. There's the water out of the main hose from the water pump to the manifold. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and take all of your hoses that run up here to the manifold, go ahead and take them off and drain them as best you can. Now, when I said drain these hoses, the most important hose that you are going to want to drain is going to be your pickup line. And that is the line that is coming from your outdrive, and it's picking up water and bringing it into your engine. So this hose needs to be drained as much water as you can possibly get out of it. You want to get as much water as you can out of it. And we're going to winterize the outdrive too, and that kind of goes back to this. So, but what you're going to have to do is, like on mine, I need to take that bracket off right there in order to get this hose low enough so that I can drain the water out of it. Alright, now that our engine block is drained down and our hoses are all drained down as much as we can get them, go ahead and leave everything unhooked, because we're not finished with that yet. What I want you to do is go ahead and pull your coil wire off, and pull it directly off the coil and get it right out of the way. And then what you're going to do is turn the engine over. Now what that's doing is pushing any water that was in the water pump. It's pushing that last bit of water out. Now we're going to winterize that water pump with antifreeze anyway, but it's just a good idea to get as much water as you can possibly get out of there. So if you have to turn it over 2 or 3 times, and you know, until it stops pushing water out. Okay, now that I'm thinking of it, go ahead and you're probably going to have to look in your boat service manual for this, unless you have an OMC Cobra like I do. You're going to have to locate, there's 3 screws. There's 2 on this side, 1 and 2, and it's right on the bell housing, and another one over here. Go ahead and locate these screws, and you can go ahead and take those out. And what this does is it drains water out of the outdrive. Okay, so at this point you have drained as much water out of your engine block as possible. You have pushed any excess water out of your water pump, and you have taken the screws out, the water drain screws out of your outdrive. So now it is time to go ahead, and this is where antifreeze comes into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my hose back on my water pump. There we go. You don't have to tighten it down yet. No need to. I've got my other hoses off. I hope you guys are able to see this. One of these days I'm going to hire a camera guy. but not today. So you've got your antifreeze, and you've got a funnel, and having some paper towels and some rags around at this point is a very good idea. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and pour some water. I'm going to pour some, I'm going to put the camera back a little bit so hopefully you guys can see all of this. I'm going to go ahead and put my funnel into my water pump hose, and I'm going to pour antifreeze into the hose going to my water pump, and I'm going to keep pouring this antifreeze in until I start to see it coming out the engine block drain plugs, where the drain plugs were. They've been removed. So I'll keep pouring until I see nothing but antifreeze coming out, and you're going to see a mixture of antifreeze and water. And there, we are good. Nothing but antifreeze coming out. Hopefully here, I'll show you guys that. So I've got nothing but antifreeze draining out of my engine block drain plugs, and that is from my pouring into the water pump. So once you've done this, you're just going to wait for that to drain one more time. And once that drains down, what you're going to want to do is what I like to do. Is that drained down yet? It is draining down. Alright, once it's drained down, what I'll do is I'll take the hose off the water pump and get it back on there. And what you're going to want to do is the reverse process and get a little bit of that antifreeze into the manifold. No big deal. Actually, I don't even normally do that, but this time I decided to. So once again, what you're doing is you're pouring water down into your water pump until you see it coming out the engine block drain plugs. Nothing but antifreeze. And you are in good shape. So once you see that, you can go ahead and put your water pump hose back on your manifold. Again, really no reason to tighten this stuff down. You can tighten it all down in the end. So the next step is going to be to winterize my, this is the pickup line. And what I mean by that is the pickup going to your outdrive. The water comes up this hose into here, and then down into the water pump. So you're going to go ahead and pour antifreeze down it. And I have just about I've actually gone through an entire gallon of antifreeze at this point. So when you start pouring your antifreeze down into the pickup line, you will see it coming out of the outdrive. And it may take some time to get there because there's an impeller in the way, and it could take a minute to get there. So I'm going to shut you guys off for a second so that I can clean my hands up, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so I went out in the back of the boat and I verified that I have some antifreeze coming out of my outdrive. No water, just antifreeze. So we can go ahead. Oh, and I just dropped one of my hose clamps down the bilge. Thankfully, it's not too hard to reach. So we can go ahead and replace this hose. Okay, so now that that's done, the next step is to winterize the exhaust manifolds. Some people call them heat exchangers. Same process. You're going to get your funnel, you're going to put it in your hose, and you're going to pour antifreeze into this hose. And what you're going to watch for here's what you want to see. Coming out of the bottom of your exhaust manifolds, you want to see antifreeze. That is what you're looking for. So if you have an 8-cylinder or a V6, you're going to want to go ahead and do this to both sides. And once that's complete, your engine block is now winterized. Okay. So at this point, we have drained all the water out of the engine block and replaced any remaining water with antifreeze, and your engine block is now winterized. So earlier we talked about the outdrive drain plugs. So I'm going to show you what I do to give the outdrive a little extra winterization, and that'll be the last thing we do. Okay, so earlier we removed the water drain plugs from your outdrive, and what I generally do is I have these syringes. You can get them at pretty much any pharmacy, medical supply place. You can also use like hair dye bottles, anything that where you can push some antifreeze. And what I like to do is go ahead and push a little bit of antifreeze into these drain plug holes until you start seeing it come out. And you will start to see it in the different ports of your outdrive. There it comes right there. So you can shoot a little bit in here. Anywhere there's water, you want to shoot a little antifreeze. Something to keep in mind, you know, you're going to be bringing your outdrive back up. If it rains out, you're going to have to make sure you put that outdrive down, because what will happen is water will get back in here, and if you store it outside or in a very cold environment, this will end up splitting and costing you a splitting headache. So there you go, guys. I hope this helped anybody, somebody. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can leave them in the comments. Subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching.